and commitment to realizing Mayor Dickens' vision for the city of Atlanta, as well as AIM's vision, mission, and core values. This first slide is a representation of our organizational structure. A few items I want to point out since our last budget presentation. We have added a new Chief Information Security Officer. This is the first CISO the city has had since prior to the breach. The former Chief Technology Officer transitioned from the city at the end of 2023. And prior to backfilling this role, I am in the process of performing a deep dive analysis of the division to ensure appropriate leadership is assigned and aligned within the department. As an example, I identified 2 key hires to focus on IT operations and service delivery, which have already made a positive impact to the environment. Some accomplishments I would like to highlight: effective and ethical government. Because of our optimization efforts, AIM realized $2 million in savings this past fiscal year. A city of opportunity for all. With the expansion of the IT kiosks throughout the city, AIM realized incoming revenue of approximately $1.5 million. A city built for the future. We upgraded critical and citizen-facing applications for enhanced technology and operation efficiencies. As an example, our 311 enhancements. In One Safe City, we partnered with public safety to enhance technology to support the expansion of technology, an example being the rollout of MDTs for their new vehicles. And upcoming in FY25, effective and ethical government, we're going to continue to simplify applications by eliminating redundant systems and retiring ineffective systems. A city built for opportunity for all, the implementation of a modern and fully integrated customer relationship management system. A city built for the future. We're implementing multiple AI tools to realize efficiencies both internally and externally. One Safe City, in partnership with APD, realized multiple technology enhancements to ensure the resiliency of E911 operations. This next slide captures the FTE position count as of January 2024. We have since filled positions. We continue to reduce our reliance on contracted resources and have reduced that spend year over year. And our average vacancy rate for funded positions in FY24 was 15%. The year-over-year budget trend is a net of 3.9%, with a $2 million increase for general fund. The enterprise funds represents contracts and split funded personnel that fluctuates based on projected year-over-year spend. The next slide represents our FY25 proposed budget and FY24 adopted. We are increasing our salary allocation by approximately $500,000 and increasing our contracted services by $2 million to align with our projected services spend. And this alignment addresses the year-over-year allocation gap. And with that, we are here to answer any questions council may have.
All right, thank you. Members are going to be cycling back in here, coming off their lunch break. Let me ask, so you're showing 149 FTEs for this year, and I don't think there's a city department that does not rely on, outside contracted services to a certain extent. I would imagine, given the complexity of what you do, you rely on a percentage basis, heavily on a number of outside people. So you've said you've been working to kind of reduce that. So I'd like to hear just a little bit more about that. I'd like to get your impression of what in a more perfect world the balance would be between city employees and who you bring in from the outside. And an unfair but intriguing question, perhaps, is if all the people you relied on to do all the things you do were city employees, approximately how many FTEs would you actually have? So,
Okay. So your first question, we have reduced our FY23 to FY24 spend by roughly $2 million. And that was due to the increase in headcount that we received last year. I believe it was a total of 5 FTE. And we are going to continue to reduce, not by that much, FY24 to FY25. Our spend right now, the projection is $500,000. But we tend to rely heavily on contracted resources because of the challenges in recruiting in the space. So as we look at some of the more difficult positions to fill, we leverage these contracted resources to get us through that period of time that it takes to find resources, onboard them, get them trained. So I don't see an instance where we completely move away from the need of support in that space. And ideally, I would say where we are right now with the way the cycle works. So if an employee decides they want a different opportunity elsewhere, and then we have to onboard them, the time it takes to do that, I think we're at that balance of the amount of employees that we need. Otherwise, what would happen if I were to say 200 would be that magic number? I find it almost impossible to recruit and retain the 200 in order to keep that flat. So I think our balance is actually pretty good when it comes to what we have as far as a funded headcount perspective, as well as leveraging those contracted resources. We did look at the overarching number, and it would be an additional 30 critical resources that would take our contracted resources down to 0.
So council has only received a 50,000-foot overview of the pay and class study. I assume you've had an opportunity to see in detail, what the results were when they looked at your department, or am I wrong?
At a high level.
Only at a high level. Okay. When HR comes up, that'll make some questions for me. All right, as regards your budget for aviation, you're showing a significant decrease. What accounts for that?
So that line item for all the enterprise funds are basically based on what our spend to date is for FY24 and our projection for FY25. In this particular line item, we no longer have split funded resources with aviation, so that number went down. But we do use this line item for some of the split funded contractual obligations that we have.
All right, I'm happy to see your emphasis on kind of maintaining the safety of our overall system. Those of us who lived through the episode here was, don't ever want to have to live through that again. And I know you are constantly manning the ramparts, as everyone is. I'll let that topic alone for now. Other questions? President Shipman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you all. A few different questions. One is we've read a lot nationally about the kind of the broad IT industry going through layoff cycles on the private sector. We've seen a lot of folks on the street. I am assuming that we've been able to benefit from that, either from continuing to keep wages somewhat in check or able to pick up some talent. I'm just curious from just to comment on that a little bit of how you've seen, as the industry has moved through this cycle, your ability to either retain staff or pick up staff.
So what we've seen during this cycle is anytime we have an opening and we post it, we get hundreds and hundreds of applications. And it's, in a sense, a little overwhelming, the responses that we receive. But I think it's just because of that, because of the turnover has been so rampant on the private side of the world. So we have a good source of a talent pool out there, but there are still some positions that are very difficult to fill that we still have challenges with. But I would also say that internally, whenever we can, we look to promote within. So developing talent through succession planning and upskilling is our first choice, and then trying to fill those entry-level positions to go through that same cycle with those employees.
Got it. Just picking up on a question that I asked before, with Watershed and that Chair Shook just alluded to, we've seen a lot of reports nationally about IT and cyber attacks on city infrastructure, specifically on Watershed and electrical grid infrastructure. Obviously, electrical grid is Georgia Power question, but around around our wastewater and water management systems, you just talk, obviously, at a high level about the kinds of things that you're focused on, especially ahead of the World Cup.
Sure. So one of the primary conversations that we have are with our federal partners to make sure that we're staying up to speed on what they see and keeping that relationship strong. As I mentioned, we recently brought on in October a Chief Information Security Officer who works very closely with Department of Watershed Management to ensure some of the esoteric type controls that they have, like SCADA. We have not only the right endpoint detection devices, but also having the right conversations, because in this space, the evolution is just so quick, especially with AI, where we have to continuously modify our approach and make sure that we keep in step with all of the threats that are in the environment.
Okay, thank you. It's mentioned in the budget book around enhancements ahead of the World Cup. Are there any other things in this budget specifically, or big items that you expect that we're going to have to accomplish from your perspective before the World Cup gets here?
Yes, and we're looking at that. So we are in partnership with FIFA right now. One opportunity that we see is the expansion of technology when it comes to access. So when we have all of the visitors, making sure that they have access to the resources that are available here within the city of Atlanta, small businesses, making sure that we get those advertisements out and ways to engage the city. We also see that there's going to be a ramp up with 311 and call center activity, so making sure we stay connected. We are looking at piloting some technology opportunities, as an example, an artificial intelligent kiosk to help just navigate and handle the crowds that we're going to get, but also working very closely with our partners in public safety to make sure from a technology perspective they have what they need in order to make sure that we keep the city safe.
Good. Some other municipalities have moved towards a, for lack of a better term, sort of a single sign up for city services, where I, as citizen Doug, can go in and see my water bill and my any traffic citation and kind of all around city services. Can you talk a little bit about the potential that you see for Atlanta, or the challenges if we were to move into that perspective, as opposed to kind of each of the departments having you got to create a password and sign in, et cetera?
Yes, a digital identity would be a great opportunity for the city of Atlanta. We've had conversations where, identity aside, from a citizen perspective, if you look at just the way our different entry points are, we have our own look and feel depending on the websites. We have our own look and feel depending on whether or not you go into a mobile app. Trying to streamline that, I think, would be a good enhancement to the city. The challenge when you look at the prioritization of everything that we do is aligning the investment of time, resources to that vision, while juggling. We have 4 focus areas within AIM: the reliability of our service, securing our environment, enhancing customer experience, and employee growth and development. So making sure that we do what we need from an operations perspective to have reliable services, as well as create that streamlined view, streamlined entry point. It's the kind of the prioritization of, from my perspective, is we're going to make sure our systems remain secure. We're going to make sure our systems remain reliable while we work with the mass departments on changing the way that they do business. Because if we say we can flip a switch tomorrow and we can have one entry point, that will then change the operations of each department. So figuring out that overarching strategy, I think, is an opportunity, but it's been very high-level conversations thus far because of all of the other competing priorities that we have.
And just because I'm sure you sort of explored this broadly, in-source versus outsource approach to that, what's the ratio of other municipalities that have started to walk down this? Do they typically do it in-house? Do they sort of build the infrastructure for that single point in-house, or are they using external partners to do that?
They're using external partners, but it takes a lot of internal resources in order to deliver.
Yeah.
So as an example, when we think about ATL 311 and the work we're doing with that customer relationship management system that will roll out later this year, that would be the same group of resources that would be needed for another initiative. So externally, yes, but internally, it would be how do we prioritize the internal resources to the initiatives that we have on.
Got it. No, that makes sense. That's all I've got. Thank you.
You. So one of your proposed program highlights reads, continue citywide website refresh opportunities. What does that mean, and what should our expectations be?
So actually aligning to the conversation about the one identity, we have a number of different websites that are in need to be refreshed. So we have been working closely with our departments on making sure that we give a new look and feel while looking at it overarching for the mayor's office to have that unified approach. We are also looking to release an RFP for the external partner that we use for content management to make sure that we have a site that is easy to use for our departments, easy to update, and ultimately get us a step closer to that overarching one city, one look, one feel.
Well, question for the council president. I'm occasionally reminded of the need probably to update our council website. There's some content up there that's been there for about 5 years. Who does that work?
It's typically a combination of the council staff from an information perspective, and then if there's infrastructure, it would be the main team.
Okay. And then some years ago, there was something of a debate over the benefits of having a kind of a shared sort of look and feel, a kind of a shared sort of livery around these websites, while also retaining the ability for some users to have a kind of their own identity. And that's a tightrope. That's hard to walk. What about equipment refresh opportunities?
We have been in discussions with the Department of Finance to identify ways to do a full refresh of our endpoint devices. We estimate it will be approximately $7 million to replace all endpoint devices. We've had discussions about potentially leasing, getting more creative around capital budgets, and looking at opportunities to do that refresh. Over the course of the past 12 to 24 months, we've been refreshing on a case-by-case basis.
Ms. Norwood.
This is really down in the weeds. I've put together a transportation task force and am scheduling up to 7 meetings off-site. I need those recorded. I need those Zoomed. I need to have an AV person, Yeah, I need that kind of technical support. I don't know if I go to council staff first or if I come to y'all to make sure that that actually happens off-site in June, July, and August.
We have a business relationship manager that's assigned to City Council, Benita Joseph. We can have her reach out to your office to make sure you get everything that you need from a technology perspective.
Thank you.
I should know, but I've forgotten, so please remind me, what is our policy around surplus devices?
Policy around surplus devices.
Yeah, when we, refresh computers, what happens to the old ones?
So we have a process where aged devices go through a cycle, and if it's cycled out, we cleanse those devices and then destroy those devices. All of the data and information is backed up before any device is destroyed. There have been some conversations about potentially partnering with some schools to help refurbish those devices, but typically when our devices are end of life, they're truly end of life.
Well, how do you dispose of them? Don't computers contain, noxious materials?
It goes through a process, including a cleansing process where it removes any information off of any hard
Right.
drive.
But don't computer, you can't, do those get landfilled then?
As far as disposal,
Yeah.
I can get back with you on what the disposal process is.
Are batteries removed? To the extent they contain batteries?
That level of detail, I would have to follow up.
So when we do a complete refresh, desktops, laptops, tough books, whatever, approximately how many devices would that be? Just a range?
I would say roughly 6,000.
Okay. I would have thought it more, but all right, that's all the questions I have. If there's nothing else, your budgets, I'm going to recognize Mr. Lewis here. I will just say, your budgets, as usual, is very kind of straightforward. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's usually pretty flat. I don't even know if this accounts for inflation, but that's all I have. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. I think similar to what our chair said, your budget is pretty flat and pretty straightforward. The questions I was going to have are around AI, which I know you kind of touched on it, but I want you to expand how we could use it to grow as a city as we prepare to, how we can use it to grow. And then my next question would be around on new service improvements currently on the way, and that's new things that you're doing in the city.
So on the AI perspective, we have a AI governance board now where we're looking at holistically what departments are interested in from that perspective. But we are partnering with Microsoft and we're going to roll out Copilot. Copilot will be rolling out hopefully in the September timeframe. And that will, I'm not sure how familiar council is with Copilot, but it's a AI feature that sits on top of the current products Microsoft has. So the easiest example that I can give is if you use Microsoft Excel, you can ask Copilot to create a formula that you had to research and YouTube videos in the past. It will help you create those formulas. It will help you generate reports. You can ask questions about the data that's coming through the reports. It will create a lot of efficiencies here within government. So I'm looking forward to that. Your second question on some of the initiatives, we are rolling out the customer relationship management system later on this year, and that will address some of the operational inefficiencies that we've had with that CRM system, supporting ATL 311. We are also looking at implementing AI kiosks. So when customers come up and they're looking for information, they can have an interactive kiosk as opposed to waiting in line or waiting to pay their bill. We're going to be piloting that type of technology just to make things easier. We are also looking at expanding the current mobile app that we have to align with some of the expectations around the look, feel, and operations of dealing with city government. And then lastly, we're working very closely with APD in enhancing the E911 technology and the migration to the public safety training facility.
My last questions were surrounding around the position count by fund. And I don't know if you were able to answer these, but I see 32 unfunded positions. Is there a plan in this new budget? Are you planning to fill those positions, or are they funded in the new budget?
In this FY25 budget request, those positions are not funded. We do have 12 that are funded, and we've looked at our positions year over year, and we've abolished positions that we feel are no longer valid. But we keep these positions because we are seeking to reduce our reliance on contracted resources. And as we do, we use this bucket of resources if we have that need in order to reduce that spend and bring on actual FTE.
And I think just to see us down 20 in there, is there to understanding all of the technology advances and the threats, looking at what happened in Fulton County and with their system being still currently partially down, are we with having 20 unfunded positions, are we prepared for anything? Are we prepared for stuff like that?
Yes. So specifically in the information security space, we brought on board a new chief information security officer, as well as we have a managed service provider. So we outsource in partnership with Dell SecureWorks the protection of the endpoint devices, tools, technology, and resources.
And that's through outsourcing. So I'm always looking at ways in which we can hire folks and we can have them here, we can train them and keep them for a while. Is there a plan for next year for us to bring these positions online, or would you just move them off? Like similar to the position that you squashed earlier that you eliminated? Why would we continue to carry 20 unfunded positions year after year if you're not going to ever fund them?
So I wouldn't say we're not going to ever fund them, but yes, to answer your question, we do look at ways to increase internal headcount, and we will be looking at that in the FY26 ask as well. And a little earlier, I was just talking through the process of onboarding, finding talent, and filling positions. It would be impossible for us to onboard 46 positions in a 12-month period within technology, because it's such a competitive field, because it takes such a long time to make sure that you have the right candidates and the right fit. And there's turnover, both planned turnover and unplanned turnover within technology that adds another piece to that. I would be reluctant to say let's abolish these positions, and I'd rather just proactively keep looking at whether or not we can augment our staff internally, or does it make more sense to outsource to our contracted resources that we have today. But I think it's a balancing act. It depends on the market. It depends on where we are from a position perspective, whether or not we have any gaps. And lastly, just in that information security space, we have 2 open FTEs right now that we're recruiting for.
Thank you, Chair, but once again, I would want to fill those positions or get them off. We understand unfunded and funded positions. The public doesn't when they see the budget. They just see space there. And so I would want to fill those positions, have city workers, where I would want to get them off here, and I would want to plan to contract out work all year. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing else, Aim, thank you. We're going to let you get back to work. Customer service, come on up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Customer service is found on page 435. Am I just now noticing the 311 swag? Wow.
Well, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Just a housekeeping note. If you're going to speak, make sure the mic's on and make sure it's a reasonable distance away from you. But other than that, Commissioner, take it away. Introduce us to your team.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to all my team members that are here today. But we're especially grateful to be meeting with you all to share our fiscal year 25 budget. So who I have with me today is, to my far left, Deputy Commissioner Vernon Edmonds. To my immediate left, Brianna Fawcett, our business manager, and to my right, George Quarles, our Director of Customer Service Delivery. So we will get started with our presentation. So before you is our fiscal year 25 organizational structure chart. As you see, we have grown just a tad bit. We are adding a customer success manager. We have prioritized improving business processes and understanding customer expectations. So we felt it was necessary in fiscal year 25 to add a customer success manager. However, all the other positions remain the same, with me serving as Commissioner of the department, our EAs, Yvette White, Deputy Commissioner Vernon Edmonds, and our HR business manager, Rhonda Woods. We do have 4 directors, one that I mentioned to my right, George Quarles, but we also have Lamiki Davis, who is she's a director of innovation, performance, and accountability, and our call center operations director, Starrett Bartlettson.
Let me break in just a second.
Go back.
Okay, here come our copies. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Just no wonder you were looking at me like, what you? Okay. So fiscal year 25 year in review and look ahead. So our accomplishments for fiscal year 24 and calendar year 23, we focused on technology enhancements. As some of you know, we launched a chatbot live, agent transfer, as well as a chatbot. Mobile app was enhanced, and our IVR was improved so we can take cases through our IVR. We expanded our service delivery model where we are supporting E911 non-emergency support efforts. We also have our supportive services team that support PAD initiatives, and including that is they also support panhandling, public indecency, housing help referrals as well. A city of opportunity for all, and as you can see, we focus on the mayor's priorities. And in this area, we've hired key personnel that was mission critical for the success of our department. So DC Edmonds, he's fairly new. I think you've been with us about 8 months now. And we've also hired our director of the call center, who's also fairly new, but we've seen great wins since we've hired these 2 individuals. Our operational efficiencies, we've offered over 390,000 calls. We've handled a little over 304,000. We're meeting our service levels, which is 80% of the calls answered in 60 seconds. So we're meeting that at a 92% service level with a 2% abandonment rate. And the national average is about 5%. So we're staying under that. For all sources, which is all channels we take cases through, we've seen with general information cases, we've received over 369,000 cases. Of those, 199,000 were fulfillment, which is service requests, and supportive services team have now received over 4,000 calls. At this time, I'm going to defer to Director Quarles to just talk a little bit about our expanded service delivery.
Thank you, Commissioner Good. So we're trying to we are supporting the mayor's initiative, and we started taking calls for the underbridge encampments that started on February of this year. We also take calls for the housing and shelter diversion. And on May 13th, we will start taking E911 calls for public intoxication. Currently, we are taking all E911 call transfers for panhandling and public indecency. So we're proud to announce that public intoxication will be under our belt as well.
Thank you. DC Evans?
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner.
That's it. Do one more time. Right there.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I apologize. Good afternoon again, everyone. As Commissioner mentioned, our focus is improving that customer experience, and with the city built for the future, we're looking to expand our call center hours beginning July 1st. Along with that, we're looking at improving our technology enhancements. That's along with the new CRM that will give us visibility to the life cycle of that customer service work order, along with our mobile app, public portal, SMS, the AI kiosk, and the innovations lab will create that true omni experience so that a customer can decide on the channels of choice in which they'd like to engage. The other is a city of opportunity for all, with our North Star being improving the customer experience. That's with our Net Promoter Score, the voice of the customer, as well as our CSAT, and as well as the employee engagement. And we do that by focusing on our employees internally to make sure that we are meeting the needs there, as well as building succession plans, which will provide us with a pipeline in order to grow, in order to support. Thank you, Commissioner.
Our business manager, Brianna Fawcett, to talk a little bit about our incentive program, and also she will go right into the position count numbers.
So our employee incentive and recognition program is designed to enhance employee morale by recognizing our top employees on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. Additionally, the program's committee members organize department-wide events to further boost employee engagement. And I will go into the FY25 position count by fund. So on this slide, here's an overview of our FY25 headcount. Our department is split funded into the following funds. So we have general fund at 45%, watershed at 40%, and solid waste at 15%. So as you can see under field, although the total field is 99, you'll see that the split funded position numbers are outlined by each fund. Under the vacant positions, we have funded 15.05 funded, and then unfunded we have 18.95. And it's important to note that the unfunded positions are extra help, and so in the personnel paper, we are actually going to be reclassing those to funded positions. Also, you'll see on the side that we have an average vacancy rate of 26%. And while our attrition is inherent to the call center environment, we're primarily experiencing positive attrition, while many of our employees are advancing to new opportunities within the city of Atlanta. Okay. On the next slide, you'll see that we have the year-over-year budget trend. And so you'll see here the different variances for general fund. We have 4%. We have watershed, we have 48.92%. Solid waste is 40%, and for a total variance of 93%. On slide 6, this is the FY25 proposed budget and year-over-year trend for general fund. And so here, I'm just gonna go over some highlights here. So we have an increase in salaries to support critical staff positions and the mayoral expansion of hours initiative. Also, the reduction in benefits that you'll see is based on current and projected staffing trends. The vacancies are attributed to a slight reduction in benefits. And then finally, for our operating, you'll see that mostly the operating has remained the same. However, we've reallocated funding to the supplies category to align with our anticipated spend.
Thank you, Brianna. So that concludes our presentation. So are there any questions at this time?
Yeah, I'll start off with asking what your vacancy driver or drivers are. Is that just kind of the constant struggle of kind of chasing attrition or something else?
No, typically in a call center environment, most individuals they don't make this a lifelong career, right? For some, this is like a beginning of their career, and for others, they find other opportunities in the city. And so that's what we're constantly seeing in our environment.
What's your salary range?
So salary, it depends on, so our CSR ones, customer service representative ones, they're ranging about 42 to 45,000.